right.
Yeah, we gotta come in tight like
What's up, y'all?
What's happening, y'all? We live again.
Yeah, we live again.
Guys, live from Kingdom Studios. It's your boy Jack Menace here with Mr. King Dre, Mr. Larry French. We got an exciting episode for you today. We are talking about the history of the Black Indians of New Orleans.
Yes.
Guys, this is a Mardi Gras dish. I know some of y'all been down there cutting the fool at Mardi Gras. We're going to give you a little context of the rich history of this tradition with the masking tradition and just the interweaving of the native culture, the indigenous culture, the French and the African traditions that have made such a beautiful collection that gave birth to jazz, right? A lot of our jazz traditions. Right. So now I'm to my native family. I got my little feather in my hat right here. You see me? Tradition. You know, a lot of tribes in Haiti as well. So we're gonna get to the bottom of this. So before we get started, guys, we always like to start with a word of prayer. Lord, thank you for this wisdom. Thank you for this opportunity to break bread. Thank you for just the amazing grace you've given us to just share knowledge and just just show brotherhood. So Lord, let your will be done. Bless our minds. Bless the wisdom that's going forth. May it be received in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So, gentlemen, talk to me now. Mr. French, tell us more about you, my friend. They know us.
Exactly.
Yeah, talk to us, man.
Well, thank you very much. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. That's my home. Born and raised. And I remember when I was a little boy, I remember hearing down in New Orleans, in the Callio projects in the community where I grew up, at 5:30 in the morning, and you hear Indians shouting,
something like that, right?
Yeah, man, and they were putting together all this, famous sounds of Native American Indians, but these were Black Native American Indians,
Black folks.
That's what we want to learn. That's what we want to learn about.
And they were coming down the streets of New Orleans, in the Callio projects, where I was born, and it was just the most beautiful thing in the world, especially when you was a little young cat like I was back then. I realized that this music was the tradition. It's a tradition that came about for Black folks because we wasn't allowed to go in the Mardi Gras or participate in the Mardi Gras. Yeah, there were some Black folks. They were carrying the fire torches, and they were cleaning up the manure from the horses, when the white folks riding on it. But they wasn't really into being participants in the Mardi Gras.
They wasn't allowed to, were they?
Because they wasn't allowed.
Exactly. That's right.
And so Black folks decided, well, hey, let's create our own carnival. We're gonna create our
bigger
own
than
carnival,
ever now.
and it's bigger than ever.
Yeah.
It's a Black community carnival. Where you have these native Black Indians who were really, really excited to be part of this thing, man, and did not have to worry about being part of the Mardi Gras because we didn't have to care about that because we were all in the Black community celebrating our own carnival, giving our own selves the benefit of the doubt of having a wonderful life.
T-Bone, I call him T-Bone.
Yes, sir.
But now, because he's also a trombone, very good trombone player as well.
Thank you, brother. Yes, I am.
And could you tell us a little bit about, I know when you came over, we talked a little bit earlier about your family. Maybe we could show hopefully we can share some of the clips of your uncle playing. Your cousins. I mean, you come from a rich tradition. This family is in the history books of New Orleans.
Yes, sir.
He's the real deal, and it took a lot for me to have him booked in here.
Wow.
So we want to be able to get the best we can because he's a very busy man, and it takes a lot for us to get him in here. But this is part one. We plan on the producers are negotiating. This, of course, is one of the producers, but our executive producers are negotiating with him now for like a 4-part series because it's so much to cover and it's so interesting, and we know you're going to enjoy it. So if you could you just is there any way you could maybe tell us a little bit about your uncle French? You're French,
yes.
Papa French.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. New Orleans jazz was very, very spiritual music. In New Orleans. Black folks. We had to wear tuxedo suits in the hot weather down in New Orleans, and we were playing that Dixieland jazz. Man, it was just the start of this music. These musicians, they had come from different parts of the New Orleans area, and my family in particularly was Papa Celestin band. Papa Celestin was the premier boisterous trumpeter who was just high on the rankings for teaching all the young cats back in those days. Even the legendary Louis Armstrong, he taught to create his style in music was the man Papa Celestin, which is the band that my uncle Albert Papa French played alone, and he was the banjoist in the Papa Celestin band. And after the days as went, Papa Celestin passed away, and my uncle Albert Papa French took over the Papa Celestin band, and it became the New Orleans Tuxedo Brass Band. It became that band.
Right, thanks for that.
And so
and excuse me.
Yes.
And there's footage of that on YouTube.
Oh yes, there is.
Yeah, tell them about. There's a lot of footage, so you can check it out. Everything he's saying, because this is the real deal, and it's very authentic.
Yes,
so it's just like this is jazz royalty right here that we're sitting next to.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Lucky me.
Wow. Well, all of you guys is good quality musicians. This man's a singer, and this
producer, singer, dancer, drummer, and everything.
I know when you're in good quality with good people, that's when you know you can express yourself
keep it going
the way
on.
it's important.
Yes, sir. Well, I had a few questions, man. You just like I said, I want to make the most of your time here.
Yes.
And I know we're probably not going to get through all of this tonight.
Yes.
But I'm so excited, man. Yeah, I watched a few documentaries about this because I didn't know.
Yes.
Now, like I mentioned, my family's from Haiti. My father's from Haiti, so I know a lot of French Creole, a lot of Haitians have a history in that area, that region. Right. Because if you look at it on the map, what the Gulf of Mexico is, there's a lot of history of the Haitians helping out with some of the American causes because a lot of times they would go down there. And remember the pirates. Remember that?
Yeah, that's
yeah. So a lot of that history.
You
got pirates in this. You got rednecks in this. You got Native Americans in this. You got French. You got Africans.
It's getting deep.
Whole
it's getting deep, y'all.
Even the pirates are in it, guys. So this is cool. So really and truly, Mr. French, my question was, I know there's different tribes in the area, and so my question was mainly about the whole notion of respect. Because we know cultural traditions, people are very sensitive about these traditions, and so I was wondering what Black Americans, taking up the mantle, so to speak, and continue to embody some of these traditions. Was it received with respect, or was it any like, hey, why you culture vulture? Why are you trying to imitate us? Was it anything like that, or was all love?
You mean as far as Black folks imitating Indians?
Right. Because in some of the videos I mentioned, they said it was the way they pay respect to the ancestors. But sometimes people feel like it's culture vulture because I'll be real with you. Can I be real?
Yeah, be real.
Some white folks, they in different traditions in Europe, they were talking about recently at a soccer game. These fans want to pay homage to the Black soccer players, so they put on blackface.
Whoa!
And then it was like, hey, that's racist. Y'all put on blackface out here.
Yes, that is.
But they was like, we're paying respect to woo up, so we're like. Nah, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
that's a good question, though. That is a good question.
So I'm saying, whether receivers like y'all just biting our culture, or whether receivers like, hey,
that's a good.
Well, first of all, Black folks wasn't allowed to participate in the Mardi Gras. The Indians came into the picture when during the slavery, Black folks had to go somewhere to survive. We knew that Black people were going to be killed otherwise, and so they collaborated with the Native American Indian.
Right, okay.
They found shelter and sovereignty within these Indians.
Seldom hear about that.
And these people came together with us because we realized that in order to be a full people, we had to collaborate with people who were going to be like us, and these were the Native American Indians. We collaborated. We had. The women collaborated with the men in Native American Indian, and the Native American Indian collaborated with the Black women in America. So we became one family.
I like how you call it collaborate. Collaborate on some babies.
What they say, entanglement.
It takes two. Collaborating together.
Entanglement. Man.
Beautiful color baby.
You got this community, man, and it's a loving thing.
Wow,
it's a loving thing.
Well, check me out. So here's another note for you. On that notion of the collaboration, so what you're saying is that a lot of the runaway slaves from the plantations, they went down to the tribes and they kind of, were able to get free because they looked alike, right? Okay, got you.
Yeah, and Black people, we wasn't allowed. You think about the fact that we wasn't allowed to be in the Mardi Gras either, So now we had to collaborate, how we were going to be part of that. Okay. So we had to figure out that. So in other words, the best way for us to figure that out was to be with a people who were similar and in bondage and who were being destroyed and killed by the white man just like we were. And that was the Native American Indian.
You know, it's funny with like growing up, you know, we saw people in the hood, you know, I grew up in South Central Florida. So you'll see folk with like, you know, lighter skin than everybody else, the red bones or whatever. And they'll be like, I'm not black, I'm Indian. They'll be like, man, shut up. You know what I'm saying?
I still ain't got with that one yet.
But true. But now we know it's actually true because sometimes they were Cherokee. They might have been, you know, so.
You know, well, you know, we all have Native blood in.
And that's the funny part.
My mom had a lot of Native blood.
Yes, sir. So did my mom.
So
we all got long hair.
So we do.
Grandma's done got long hair down their butt, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of Indian in it. Now, is there a shirt that you wanted to read from there? Is there something you wanted to read from that?
No, those are some questions I have. I'm working through the questions.
Yeah, so I mean, now, do you have a little bit more that you could tell us about some of the different types of music in New Orleans? You could tell us, because you remember I was asking you about, I asked you a question, I said, what is occasion?
Well, that's a very good question because I like to answer that question.
This is part one, y'all. We got 4 documents on this. It's such a big topic.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned.
Well, the music of New Orleans is New Orleans jazz. Louis Armstrong was the man who started that music. Then you also have Zydeco music, which is Zydeco is really it's the rhythm and blues.
How do you spell that?
Zydeco is Zydeo.
Oh, it is, because some people are gonna look this up. You know, so we know what you're talking about. Zydeco.
Yeah, because Zydeco is not Cajun music. It's
simply slamming.
Yeah, and Zydeco it's based on the accordion grooves of black Creoles. You know, Creole has 100 different definitions, but when it comes to Zydeco, it refers to the descendants of slaves, free people of color, and mixed race of this region of people.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if we can find a sample of that.
Stay over that way. Okay. Just looking at the monitor.
Okay, I got you. Right over here.
No, this way. Come on. There you go, bro. I want to keep you in the picture. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
You got to keep knowing where we at.
Yes, I got to get you. I can do this right. Okay, perfect. Okay. Cool. So this is Zydeco, huh?
Yes, sir. And you know, in Cajun, it's simply put, Cajun music is the waltz and the 2-steps played by the white descendants of the accordions.
Oh, wow. I never knew that. I asked you that
from question. The Nova Scotia. Yeah. During the 1700s, you know. And so that's the difference between those two musics, you know. Zydeco it's Haitian music.
Haitian music.
It's from the descendants of Haitians.
Wow.
And from Creole, which were French-speaking people. So those two people were kind of like involved in the Zydeco.
Okay. Oh wow, that's knowledge.
It's some of that's on the video, you know, and that's need to go over a little bit better though. But you know.
No, that's cool. Cool. At least, like I said, this is part one. You're just touching on it. Okay. Now, let me ask one question though. I noticed that when I was down there in New Orleans, because I've been down there and played a couple of times, some gigs down there, and I noticed that the people of the Zydeco I was really impressed with the Zydeco.
Yeah,
it was slamming, man.
Yeah.
I actually had a Zydeco gig and it fell through.
Right,
but I noticed that the people, some of the funkiest Zydeco I liked was the ones that were speaking in French.
Oh, okay.
That French is slamming. It just the phrasing of the French is really nice.
Yeah, and they sing in French too.
I like that
when
French.
You hear, you know, it kind of reminds me of you know, the Indians, the Black Indians, Mass Indians, and Zydeco music. They kind of have this thing of happiness, you know, and spirituality in the music. You know.
Up.
Yeah, you know, it's black culture indeed. You will never have this without black culture.
All black culture.
You know, and
I was telling the guy, this guy I was playing with, he said, "Oh man, I want to play the blues. We got to get. I'm tired of playing." I said, "Look, man, you don't realize, dude. You're talking about them shuffles and stuff like that. That's our Delta blues. That's our history.
That's right.
That's the history of black music. Is Delta blues.
That's right.
Let me play a little sample for him, Dre.
Okay."
That's that?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
good idea.
Never have I
Yes, sir.
I see you rocking that, Jackie. Jackie be killing that.
That's it, man. Yes, sir.
Gotta go, baby.
Gotta go, baby.
Okay.
All right, man.
Have too much fun, all right?
All right, man. You getting us going, brother.
Education, this is educational purposes, okay? Educational purposes.
I got one more question. I got another question for you. Okay, so this is something I didn't know as my travel as an artist is playing Afro-Cuban music, playing Brazilian music, playing some for Cuba. I mean, Colombia and Argentina. All these regions I've played and picked up all this stuff all over. Now, one thing I noticed that I never would know, when you listen to some of the second line beats and stuff, there's a clave in there. You know, they bit the clave from the Cubans. Yeah, they bit the clave from the Cubans. So, like, you hear a lot of it. People take. So when I listen to it, you know, I always say, nah, man. In my mind, I don't want to mix the New Orleans with the Afro-Cuban. And then, and I was teaching a student one time. He said, "Oh man, should I think about the clave?" I said, "No. Think of the second line, like you think of it like that. But then there's a clave in there.
Clave means
the clave means pop. That's clave. Okay, that's the clave. That's the backbone of Afro-Cuban music. Okay.
Wow.
That's one of the claves. You got two claves. Okay. Wow. But that clave is indicative of all Afro-Cuban music. That clave, clop, 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 clop. You know. Yeah. Right. And that they bit the clave in New Orleans. They use that a lot.
Okay.
Yes.
What did you say?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you hear the clave in here, right?
Like when I teach this kind of thing.
What you playing there?
Key musical, mathematical.
Oh, hang on. I was trying to find the clave right here.
Dotted quarter notes.
So the clave.
The clave.
Okay, here we go. Let me see here. I think this video. Well, I'll come back to this in a little bit.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So what I'm saying is now, when anybody knows anything about Afro-Cuban music, the clave is would be the metronome. Okay. So but the second line and some of the dance beats in New Orleans, they use that. They bit the clave. They use they use it. So that's very interesting. And they say that's what the music of New Orleans is a gumbo.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
That's what they say.
Yeah, it is.
And I didn't think of it like that because I even told my students, don't think about no clave when you're playing it. But the more you listen to it, the more it gets closer together.
Wow.
Okay. So that's pretty deep.
Yeah.
I still don't think of a clave when I'm playing like a second line beat or a street beat. I don't think of it because I always kind of keep that over there. I keep this over there. Yeah. But it does. They mix it.
Okay. So is this a sample here? Not too much.
It's right in there.
Okay.
Right. Pop, pop, pop. Always do the music. Or then you can reverse it too.
Okay.
It's two.
Okay.
That's another show. We'll go through. That's another show. We don't get away all the shows at once. But yeah, that clave, the clave is. I was just talking like everybody already knew what it was. But that clave, that's indicative of Afro-Cuban music.
Afro-Cuban music.
And that's another show.
That's what it's. Yeah, and
I'm going back and forth to Cuba, so I'm going to do a show on Cuba.
Beautiful, man.
And then my producer here, he's from Haiti, so we got the Caribbean thing. Just stay tuned.
Yeah, it's interesting though because they say the difference between Brazilians, even Puerto Ricans. They say the difference between all of those, even in the Africans in America. You know what the difference is?
The difference
It's just a different boat style.
Exactly, that's what it is.
They drop some off
just
here.
a different boat
They
style.
drop some off here.
Yeah.
Different plantations here.
That's what it is. It really is.
Same people on the boat. They drop a couple 100,000, a couple 20,000 here. And you can look this up on Google. What it
is. That's
you're talking about slaves, right?
Yeah,
you're talking about slaves.
Like a lot of them in South America, but then they stopped in the Caribbean plantations, mind you.
Like Jamaica.
At one point, Haiti was the richest colony in the world. You know, as far as the production of it.
Yeah, okay.
Smallest, but as far as production volume, it was richer than those other colonized empires or colonies that they had at that time because of the gold and all the things. But not to digress too much.
No, that's very important.
Yeah, that's
like
very
just
important.
talking about because that's what that's our history too.
Yeah,
you know, that's very much of our history as Black folks. You know, that's just it. But what another thing, as when you talking about that, as far as I just want to put this in because I have a lot of roots in Jamaica. Okay, so. The Jamaica was a slave post trading, so they would just drop there to see where they were gonna go.
That's right.
So all of that, when you go down, all that is power pirating down there. Wow. It just really is, you know. So it's not like being racist or nothing, but that's just pure murder and piracy down there.
Yes, sir.
And that's what when the Jamaicans, that's what make them so edgy because they didn't know if they're gonna stay or not.
Okay.
So every one of those islands have the Haitians all have deep history, and we just landed here. Just like
that's right. We just
like Brazil. I mean, come on, man. Brazil is
be here.
There's more slaves in Brazil than there are here.
God,
think about crazy.
That's crazy.
And that's where you get the sambas. And all that music coming out of there. I mean, that's a whole another show. Okay, but getting back to what we was talking about as far as the New Orleans music. The reason how we did digress into all that because we found out that New Orleans is biting off all this stuff. It's a big gumbo of music.
Yes, it is.
And then the fusing of it is how they came up with a lot of their second line. Well, I'm not talking about the jazz now because the jazz, that's just original. From New Orleans, you know, from the Dixieland. I think it came out. Tell us a little bit about Dixieland music.
Dixieland.
Yeah.
Dixieland is Dixieland music is more of New Orleans music. I mean, that's New Orleans music.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. You know, it's you know, Dixieland jazz is the jazz that they were playing like in the French quarters when they were in these suits in the hot day, man. My uncle, his members were dressed in hot tuxedo suits, and they were called
clean.
But they were sweating. They were hot, but they would be in the French quarters playing Dixieland jazz music. You know, in French style.
Exactly.
A lot of French words are added to the songs, and this is how they made their money. This is how they made their living. This is how they survived.
Exactly.
You know,
very serious players down there.
You know, if you didn't want to be a bus porter or all this other kind of stuff, you could be a great musician.
Domestic.
Yeah, domestic job. That was all the kind of work Black folks had. You know, so we had to create.
Okay.
Well, we want to come back. And like I say, we got Mr. Larry T-Bone French. I call him T-Bone. And
thank you, brother.
He just rich. Of course, this is my main man, Jackson, the producer.
Yes, sir. Couldn't do this without
we
you,
are
brother.
so.
I mean,
we just touched on the surface of what we want to accomplish.
Yes,
we want to dig a little bit more into the Indians, and we want to dig into the what's the Florida. The
Seminoles, yeah.
That's we got a show coming on with that. We flying a guy in from Florida.
Whoa.
Not him.
Whoa.
His cousin. No, not really. No, but we flying a guy in to be on our show.
Wow.
We have a few club owners going to be on our show. We have a lot of good shows coming up.
That's right.
So we only release the shows that pass the cutting board. For me and my
gotta be quality. Gotta be
quality. We release it. So this is part one.
Okay.
So we want to come back with part 2 in 2 weeks. We're going to bring Larry French back. He's going to be our main speaker in New Orleans. He's born and raised in New Orleans. So who knows better than him? Right? We're going to cover as much as we can of New Orleans because me as a jazz musician, I think is very, very important. As when I met him 25 years ago, what intrigued me the most about him was he was from New Orleans, and I'm a jazz artist. So people who play jazz have to play homage to New Orleans. So I'm always studying the street beats, second line beats, the Dixieland beats, the Zydeco, all the a lot of the traditional New Orleans music. I'm always studying that.
Yes,
so all this does is enhance my musical vocabulary. So we're going to close out on this one, and then we're going to come back with him in 2 weeks. Part 2 of the Mardi Gras Indians.
Yes,
we're going to stick with that.
Yes.
Awesome. And,
so you want to close it out? Anything you want to say?
That's awesome. Yeah, a few more things too on this subject. It's really interesting. A lot of people are doing work to just revive and keep the culture alive. And so when we come back, Mr. French, we're going to dive into what are some solutions, the way that we can preserve this culture. Because a lot of the art is being lost, a lot of the history, it's an oral tradition, a lot of the history is being passed down. Not a lot of it, some of it's been written down, but a lot of it hasn't been written down. So we're just going to talk into ways that we can continue to preserve those roots in that culture because, often imitated, never duplicated, you know what I mean? So ain't nothing like New Orleans. So we just giving shout out to all the Master P, the Hot Boys, the people I grew up with, you know what I'm saying? Much respect. Manny Fresh, all them boys down there, man. That was, they got through some tough time with them. And we're going to talk about the resilience of the New Orleans people. Just like Florida, they got a lot of hurricanes, a lot of things,
That's right.
And so Katrina, man. So we got a lot of stuff.
We got a lot of stuff to go. We would definitely be part 2. If not next week, the week after. We got so much to expound. There's so much rich. And as far as our culture and our history, it runs deep.
Wow.
And we're very passionate about it. Because it's our culture,
and the tradition must go on. Because if the tradition is stopped, then we stop.
Exactly.
We can't let our tradition stop because time keeps moving. We have to keep moving with the time.
We got soul, baby.
It's difficult right now because of the finances, what it costs to create these costumes. These black masking costume makers. They take a whole year. And they have to order all these beautiful feathers from Africa and the pounds and the prices are going up and they got to pay their rent and feed their families. So the tradition is hard to keep up now, financially.
A whole year to make a costume.
And one thing we're going to talk about too, as we dive in, because me being a scholar, a scholar and a gentleman, they say the differences between the traditions and the culture, there's a difference. So we're going to dive into that also, the difference between tradition and culture.
Exactly.
And so what are the
implications? Stay tuned. You got anything else you want to close it out with?
Well, the culture. The culture is what we're all about. Our culture will continue. And that's what we're going to make sure we keep at everlasting.
I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. We got a lot of big shows coming on. And this thing that we just really picking Mr. French's brain and he just enlighten all the people. I'm based in Seattle. He's enlightening all about everything. I could sit down here and talk to him for just hours about, because I'm a jazz artist. That's what really makes the common denominator. And so I'm gonna leave it on that note. And I'm gonna let my producer here finish it, close it out.
Yeah. Well, God, thank you again for joining us. It's been another edition live from King Dre Studios here, Mr. Dre. King Dre Productions, is that right?
Yeah, man.
And Mr. French, we thank you again. So when you was in New Orleans, were you in the 9th ward? Where were you at?
Second ward. Calio Project.
Yes,
sir.
And check me out. So about 504 area code or not?
That's right.
Okay.
504.
504.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lil Wayne, Louisiana. Got shout out to Lil Wayne.
Master P.
Yeah.
Let's go out with that Zydeco.
Okay, let's go. Live from the 5.
My brothers from New Orleans.
Shout out to them, man.
Shout out to all you
down there
brothers,
too.
man.
We're coming down there too.